In this episode, we're talking budgeting, financing, and different investment ideas with POCF Maureen Marinkovich. This has been such a helpful episode, and I really hope that you guys get some great takeaways on how to thrive with that fluctuating commercial fishing income. I'm Megan, host of the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast. This show is dedicated to girlfriends, fiancés, and wives of commercial fishermen to connect and feel less alone. As we know, this lifestyle isn't for the faint of heart. So this is our space in the world to discuss the highs and lows of being in a romantic relationship with a fisherman. Because it's different than being a family member or friend. It just is. Join in to laugh, vent, and share stories with others who get your lifestyle. So what are you waiting for? Let's dive in. Welcome back, POCFs, to another podcast episode. And I'm so excited to welcome Maureen Marinkovich of San Juan Island, Washington. And she's going to give us the lowdown on budgeting and finances and how to make sure that we are thriving in the on and off season. So I've been waiting for this for a long time. Maureen and I have known each other through my husband's family and shared many a seafood dinner in Lummi Island. And it's been lovely. And just speaking with Maureen and picking her brain about anything that has to do with money has just been really helpful. And I'm excited to have her today. So thank you so much, Maureen, for being here with us.
Welcome. Happy to be here.
Hey, thank you. And let's start off by getting a little bit of your POCF background. Can you tell us more about you and your commercial fishing family?
Okay. I married into a commercial fishing family. I came from kind of a blue collar family, but not fishermen. And then I knew my husband in high school. We didn't date, but we ran track and cross country and eventually started dating. We were sophomores in college age. And then, so I married into a really big family of commercial fishermen. Matthew fishes, his brothers fish, his grandparents and parents all fished. And so it seems like a tradition that's been continually handed down, including my nieces, nephews, and my daughters. So, yeah.
Yeah, extensive. So y'all know a thing or two around a boat, that's for sure. I think I've only met you guys when you're coming off of a boat, honestly, and into the home, which makes it even better.
I should say I call myself shoreside support because I think I'm the one person in my family that doesn't just love being out on the water. Like I'm the person who gets sick and doesn't love it and wants to slow down. And my kids are always like, go faster. And I think maybe if I would have fished when I was younger and worked into it, but I always ended up just, being on the shore, which is actually probably how I became the money manager.
Yes, I love that. And you mentioned shoreside support. I've used that several times and I learned that initially from you. So this is amazing.
Yeah.
You mentioned it. Let's just dive in. How did y'all decide that you would become the money manager? What was your conversation about that?
Well, it's a personality thing probably, and it'll all depend on the families because I know commercial fishermen where the fisherman does a lot of it and then the wives don't or the partner doesn't. And then a lot of times the women do or the partners do. Not always women these days, of course, but I remember when I was young, and also I married Matt kind of after a while of going out. So we've been going out for a while. I think we got married after about 6 years or something, but I remember when I started, he would have his mom always pay his bills and do things like that. It seems like someone needs to help the fishermen when they're gone for a few months at a time. You need someone who's going to make sure the rent's paid, the bills are paid, or something gets done that needs to get done in their absence. So someone usually takes on that role, whether it's his mom but I kind of thought, well, I could do this. And it started out with mail. Like he just had a lot of mail and I used to give it to his mom and I thought, I'll just go through the mail, and most of it's usually junk mail and you can kind of sort out what is a bill. And then I'd bring it down to his mom and have her pay the bill and something like that. But when he came home, Matt said, okay, where's my mail? And I handed him like a paper bag with not too much mail in it. And he goes, well, where's all my mail? I go, that's it. And he goes, well, where is it all? I go, I went through it for you. And he was a little taken aback by that, I think. He was like, I think he didn't love that at first, but it turned out to be, I would say me handling things financially also kind of took a while because he was very used to doing it all himself. And so eventually we worked it out, but I think it kind of started off with me going through the mail. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's definitely helpful, because that's probably, it piles up and becomes this intimidating situation to deal with as soon as you get home. So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, continue.
No, you go.
You say, so what is your personality trait that makes you love numbers?
Mm, well, I lucked out marrying someone who's, I would say, tight. And also commercial fishermen tend to be, well, they come in all personalities, but I married one that was kind of tight with funds. And then I was always very good at budgeting because I didn't come from very much money. So I had to know exactly how many cents were left in my bank account. And so I didn't bounce. And then he would just sort of make sure he didn't bounce by just sort of generally knowing what was in there. But I think I just like money and numbers generally anyway. And I was interested in finance. Eventually, when we were married and we had Matt, I remember Matt said something like, we should probably save for our retirement, because that's another thing. Fishermen or people in this industry don't really have someone doing this for you. You have to figure it out yourself. So we had American Express. They ended up getting bought out by Ameriprise. So we started kind of funding our retirement through this company. But I also noticed I was looking at those statements and saying, well, how do they charge? Where are the fees? And I was very interested in that as well. So then at the same time, I was listening to the radio on a guy named Bob Brinker. I just got something in the mail from Bob Brinker. No one may know his name, but he used to be on the radio for like 4 decades, and he's just retiring, so I would get his little newsletter every month. And I got something in the mail today that said, they gave me a refund for my newsletter saying he's retiring. And I was like, oh, but anyway, so the combination of listening to the radio, learning, he would recommend books to read, and me thinking I could just do this myself, I ended up investing our funds kind of on my own after that. So I think it's, a conversation about finance is going to be a wide variety of personalities and people's approach to money in general. I just happen to be someone who is very interested in all things financial, everything having to do. And because Matt was kind of tight, he was the partner who would say like, how much did that cost? He was always bugging me about like what I spent. And so, because as you develop into, maybe a joint bank account or the household bank account or something, he just started, his personality never really changed. But I realized we were going to have to come up with a system where it was an argument at first, really, or several series of arguments, but till I guess you'd call it communication, discussions bordering on argument. But, or I would just be snappy. And it's like, eventually when I had the budget, I was like, it's in the budget. So it doesn't matter because I'm not overspending. It's what we both agreed on that we were going to spend. And the only thing outside the budget that generally becomes the categories where people can argue over are just discretionary income or clothing or household goods or furniture. But, usually you can hammer down groceries and, it might just be other areas of contention or something. A couple has to figure out like what your budget is. But I'm going to tell you, if fishermen families have budgets, you will have wealth in your future, and you will have far fewer arguing and incidences of confusion over finances. You'll just be something that's just taken care of. So, whoever does the budgeting, whoever takes it on, however you like to do it, what system, doesn't really matter. It's just sort of like, just find a budget. I think you'll save your marriage, maybe.
Relatable. I mean, it's incredible. Just money talks of how we were all raised has a lot to do with how we speak about money, and combining finances is a whole new world. And I would love to know what you think are the basic rules for budgeting on a commercial fishing income. Like, what are some main factors that you put into that budget?
Well, okay. So the first thing you have to do is assess what you do for a living, how many different fisheries you're involved in, whether or not you have W-2 income on the side from a job that you have in the off season. And then after you've kind of assessed all of your incomes, the thing to do with commercial fishing, and I wish I would have done this when I was younger and started off, but if you start off with a bad season budget and you sort of stick to the bad season budget every year, when you have good seasons, then the money that is above and beyond, then you're going to have two different kinds of partners in commercial fishing, ones that reinvest in the fishery a lot and just sort of move along that way, or maybe you're investing in other areas of your life, but maybe you want to save for a house or buy land or property or something like that. And when it's time to do that, it helps to have a chunk of change set aside, or you're setting aside money aside for your retirement. But the basic advice is to find a budget dollar amount that sort of maximizes a sort of a, however bad you want your season or however the worst season is, or at least find an average, but don't live on the money as it comes in, because some years are better than others. And if you get into that habit, then you're in feast or famine mode. And it's usually a stress related. Oh my God, I've had years, where you're kind of, living, you're waiting for the next paycheck, and that's no fun, if you're, in a stress mode. I try to help everyone avoid stress.
100, and so relatable too. So whenever you say to budget for the leanest year, is it in a sense that you, I guess, people fish as much as they can, but is it like you reach a quota when you're fishing? You're like, oh, okay, I can breathe now for the rest of the season. We have enough to make, however much money we need for these several months.
Yeah, you kind of do that. I've gotten better about not worrying about it as much, because we've been fishing for so long, and I'm married to someone who's very good at making sure the boat runs and doesn't have breakdowns. And I maybe we've been lucky in other ways too, but anyway, but yes, I'm nervous because the 4th of July had traditionally been like the peak run in Bristol Bay. So a lot of times, before and coming up, and then like a week there, you're like, you kind of can hear on the phone when you talk to your spouse or partner, like how they're doing, their voice, and, so you can kind of tell, and then I can kind of have the feeling, oh, we'll be fine. But I'm always figuring we'll be fine anyway, because no matter what, then we'll figure out another fishery, or we've had, he used to long line. And so sometimes when Bristol Bay was a bad season, he was still long lining, and that was good. So we had a nice balance for ourselves,
Okay. If you would share, what financial challenges can you think of that you faced and how you overcame them?
Financial challenges, one of them I remember is like, I would tell Matt, we need to save in our IRAs. We need to put money in our IRAs. And Matt would say, oh, fishing's my retirement, and that was kind of a challenge, or I'd say we should buy some of this. Actually one of the challenges I've had, which I think is possibly a woman thing or a female thing, I'm not positive, but I feel like I've got pretty good ideas, and I say them, and then they get poo-pooed or whatever, or not listened to. And, like 5 or 10 years go by, and then it's like, you should have listened to me. Oh, I have a lot of, oh, you should have listened to me. But that'll be there, by the way, with anything, because as a couple or as a family, you're going to make decisions, so many decisions. Should you remodel this house? Should we buy this house? Maybe you buy a car that's a lemon. All kinds of financial things happen that kind of suck sometimes. So that just is part of life in general. I don't know if it's any different than any other family in a commercial fishing family, but some of the challenges we've had are I think Matthew, because we've been married now for a long time, and because I'm 55 and known him since high school. So it's nice to be older, because now we have all this time behind me, but he thanks me now, so, and also if you guys can, in the commercial fishing world, and this is very difficult for relationships in general, you write about that a lot on your blog, and if you can work your problems out and just keep trying, keep communicating, and you stay together, because if you love each other, even though it's a hard industry, then you get to have rewards down the way. You get the nice rewards of just, like your husband's like, oh, my wife's got it, at first, because you start off with a partner in life and it's just a new thing, and you come bringing your own, some people are spenders, some people are savers. You have to figure out, who's going to be parceling out the dough, maybe someone needs to be on a budget themselves or given a certain amount to spend, and they might accept that graciously because they know they're a spender. It's like, and, everyone has to decide how it's going to work,
I love that. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought of this. I was wondering, do y'all, when you get paid, when you get your checks from fisheries, however often you do you split like a percentage, like this goes to the business, this goes to home? Is there a percentage that you stick to for this?
Yeah, there is. And here's another thing I was going to talk about, the differences between, in all this world of commercial fishing. Some people are boat owners and business owners and operators, and some large and small, and some guys are just crew guys, not just crew guys, but they might be bringing home a 1099. And then you have to remember to take money out for taxes. It's just important if you're going to have a job that isn't having taxes withheld, you have to remember to withhold your own taxes. So you have to very early on get very used to setting money aside for certain specific buckets of expenses and savings. So we're a boat operator. So we have a salary that gets paid to my husband through the corporation, and it's in the reasonable zone. There's certain amounts you have to kind of pay yourself for the IRS too. But some fishermen pay themselves a salary through a corporation. Others do it differently and do disbursements, or there's so many different ways. But I like the salary thing because I have a budget. It's a monthly budget, even though income comes in chunks and different ways. I know exactly how much money goes out every single month because, of course, there's regular bills and that's how I devised my system. So no matter what, and we always make the minimum, and then whatever's left usually sits around in the business account or gets dispersed as needed. But that's how I do it.
I love that. Okay. And I don't know if this is too personal, but how many accounts do y'all have? Like do you have your own account? Is there a joint account? Is there a business? Chris and I have probably 3 different, just like business for his. I have my own, then we have our own, and then we have a joint account. So
yeah, I like money, and for me, bank accounts are like your teddy bears. It's like, oh, that was my first bank account, and this is my first credit card in college, and then you have trouble letting them go, and then eventually you get, the other thing you got to do is you have to figure out like, how many bank accounts am I going to have? How am I going to use them? And if you're being charged any fees in any of these accounts, then you have to figure out how to avoid fees. Because when I counsel people or whatever, when I used to work at the bank and everything, I'd always say, rich people don't pay fees, poor people pay all the fees. So you have to pretend or work, live your life like you're a rich person until you are a wealthy person, because otherwise you spend your life paying fees and they come up on you. You have to read the fine print. Next month, we're going to institute a $5 monthly service charge unless you transfer $100 out of your savings account and back into your checking. You have to do something dumb or usually maintain a minimum balance, which can be hard depending on the situation. So I have a lot of bank accounts. I love all my bank, but I've tried to pare them down over the years but that's also how I budget. I have certain bank accounts where I stuff money and then I use them for different things. And that's the minimum someone should have is a checking and a savings if you're young, because you don't want to have all of your funds in one account. You want to have something in another account, even at another bank, that you don't have access to as easily or maybe isn't associated with a debit card, so that you actually put money over there for your emergency savings and it's something you're ignoring. But so you can have a lot of accounts or a few accounts. If you're going to have a lot, you have to make sure you maintain them all. And that can take a little time. And that's another thing I figured out over the years is like, do I want to spend all my time reconciling 16 bank accounts or worrying about this, or should I pare it down and make my life? So I've tried to make my life a little more simple so I could read a book instead of just, figuring out my bank account balances.
Well, speaking about that, so speaking of bank accounts, do you have any specific systems or processes that you use to keep track of your money?
I use Quicken for the personal side of things, and then I use QuickBooks for the business side of things, although QuickBooks ended their desktop and went on to QuickBooks Online, and I hate QuickBooks I'm in a crisis actually on the business side of things for books, because I'm just going to keep using QuickBooks Desktop, and I don't know. I keep backing it up. I don't know what will happen in the future, but right now I use the 2, and I do use the Intuit products. There's a lot of different products and apps that you can use out there for different things, but that's what I use.
Do you use an accountant, or do you do the taxes yourself?
We definitely use a CPA, and we've had 3 over the years. Those are very personal relationships that you develop over the years. And one of ours, CPAs died of pancreatic cancer. It was very devastating because, of course, it's sad. I realized as soon as I said it was very devastating, I realized it was very devastating for me. But
all around,
but, yeah, it's devastating in general. It was terrible. And then we had another person. Anyway, we've gone through a few, but the person we have right now is great. But it takes a long time to find, or maybe it doesn't. You don't ask around, ask for referrals. I was going to say, like, if you're young and you have your income coming in, and it's just you're still on 1040 easy, or you don't have a business income, you can do your own taxes. Just make sure you save out of your money that you earn to pay your taxes. I'm a big fan of paying taxes, not because I think it's great. I hate stress, and I don't want to have any letters from the IRS telling me I owe them anything. So we're always on top of it and take care of all that stuff. And I find that to be relaxing, even though it's a pain to pay.
So you do the quarterly payments instead of pay your right arm every April.
Yeah, however you need to do it I think fishermen, well, I think we're annual, but there's payroll taxes that are quarterly. But I was going to say about taxes. Oh, I was going to say, if you are in the more complicated version of a tax form and you think you can do it, or you want to use Turbo or whatever that's called, some of those online things, then consider using a tax person, because they actually keep abreast of all the latest tax laws. And a lot of times, you could be missing something, and then you could be paying more than you need to. So even though a CPA can be expensive, if you find a good one that knows fisherman taxes or can understand what you're up to, then that could save you a lot of money in taxes. So of course I want to pay my taxes, but I want to pay as little, as reasonable as possible.
Because that's what rich people do.
That's right. I see we're all just a bunch of little mini Donald Trumps. Everyone was like, he doesn't pay any taxes. Like, well, I'm sure he figured out how to do it, and or people figure it out along the way. I shouldn't use him as a specific example, really, but yeah.
Yes, totally. Okay. We've talked about this over dinner once, but I'd love to get your opinion on credit cards. We've both been through the Dave Ramsey school of money, if you will.
Yeah.
But also credit cards. What do you think?
Okay. So that's going to be a tool to use to your advantage. There's the Alaska Airlines card, you build up your miles, you can get companion fares. So you pay for that every year. That's okay. I think it's $150 a year for that card, but you pay and then you earn the miles, and then you can redeem those miles. And there's a lot of benefits that come with using a credit card. If you're very young and you're very new to using credit cards, it's all going to, again, depend on the person. So Dave Ramsey, he's speaking to a specific demographic of people. A lot of times those folks are in severe credit card debt. They're going backwards. They aren't budgeting their money. And so he specifically says, no credit cards. You shouldn't have any credit card. You don't need any, but I bet dollars to donuts, he's got his share of credit cards. But he's speaking to a certain demographic. And if you're in that demographic, if you're young and you're not sure about finances, then I love Dave Ramsey. I thought he was the first person actually that was like, get out of debt. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. It never really occurred to me. I would pay my credit cards off every month, but we maybe have mortgages or maybe a rental house with a mortgage or, just different ways of racking up, or maybe you're using a line of credit to do a remodel or something. But, you basically, the idea is to be debt-free, and that's also very stress-free, is to be debt-free. So anyway, yeah. So credit cards and debit cards are tools to be used. If you can handle a credit card, use a credit card. It's fine as long as you're paying it off every year or every month. You're not carrying a balance, and it's in your budget. You're just using it for convenience, because I don't know. I worked at a bank too, and also I kind of feel like credit cards have a little bit more of protection. It's like you can call them up and they can remove something. That's fraud. But debit card, like I'll give a quick example. Like there's a guy and a gal, and then he had bought her Spotify for a present, so he was paying for that every month. I think it was like $10 every month on his card. And then they broke up, and then she had all the login information for the Spotify, so he couldn't cancel his own gift to her because it kept charging. So he was like, I'm going to get a new debit card, and and then you get a new debit card, and that just triggers. It doesn't matter. It's not like it's a new card, but you've given permission to a lot of these places to just re-up your current card. So then anyway, that was a huge hassle. And then if it'd been on a credit card, he could have just said, I broke up with this girl and I don't want to pay for Spotify anymore. And then they would cancel it, And then, so there's differences between credit cards and debit cards that can be to your advantage, but it's all going to depend on you as a human being and where you're at financially in your path to, financial wellness and knowledge.
I love that, because I think at one point I had no financial knowledge. I knew I had money and then I didn't, and I had credit card debt, and then I got out of debt, and I've been terrified to use a credit card ever since. And that's when we were started talking. And I'm like, oh wait, you said, well, now you have the tools to, budget your money correctly. Like, you're not who you used to be. So this is something that could be something that could
that's all this is, financial literacy. They don't teach it in schools. That I hear a lot of kids say, or adults say, I wish they would have taught this in school, and this is a great industry to be in, to learn about finances on your own and to utilize resources and gain knowledge like you have, you're at the next level.
Whew. It's nice being in my 40s. I'm kidding. When you're talking about mortgages and investment properties, I'd love to know, what other jobs do commercial fishermen or partners have that you're aware of?
So many different things. I remember one guy in Tacoma, when we lived down there, he drove heating oil in the winter, the truck that delivered heating oil. And that was his winter job. And then he fished in the summer. And Bristol Bay is still kind of the season that allows for teachers to be, so the people who fish in Bristol Bay might have other jobs like teaching, or could be anything, and commercial fishing families are usually pretty scrappy too. They'll and they're not afraid of hard work. So they'll do all kinds of different jobs, gardening, landscaping, you can, I don't know, there's kids up here that go, it's a great living, because you can sometimes talk your boss. I know a kid that has a job in HVAC, and then he's fishing, and, maybe he had to tell his boss, I'm going to go, and then they're like, okay, well, then you might not have a job when you get back, or something, sometimes they get told that, but then they're like, okay, you're fine. Just come back when you get back, because you're a hard worker and you're a good worker. And yeah, you might be gone for a while, and it's a pain in the ass. It's a pain to, people, but, they realize that, you're good, so sometimes you can be in construction, and we had a crew guy that was in construction, and you're leaving, in the summer, the height of the construction season, and so they can come back and still have their job. It's kind of nice. So there's a plethora of jobs, it's all up to the person. Sometimes fishermen are direct marketers and sell their own fish. And that's what we've done for 30 years too, on the side. And it's fun. So we have customers and sell fish, and it's fun.
How do people get in touch with you about your fish? How can people find you?
Oh, you get on the fish list. It's mattsfreshfish.com. You can sign up for the fish list. And Matthew's a great writer, so he sends out good emails, and that's a great way to educate. If you're a commercial fisherman and you want to sell your own fish, it's a great way to educate your community and your neighbors and your friends all about what you do for a living. And it's sort of like a way to get to know your farmer. People want to know where their food comes from. So the same with fishermen. I highly recommend direct marketing, actually. Just sell your catch if you can, and be part of promoting that well-sourced fish, and selling it to your community. It's a good idea.
I'll put your link in the show notes for sure, so people can check it out. And I'd love to know, what is your investment philosophy?
Okay, so investment philosophy, I've done a lot of, I had my securities license for a while. That was super fun as well. But the one thing I remember, you listen to so many podcasts, so many, you read like books or listen to podcasts, but you're getting a lot of people talking to you about investment, from Vanguard or Morningstar, or just different places where I like to listen. And then, but one thing I've noticed over the years is it tended to be a very cyclical nature of conversation. It was the same almost every year, the same advice year after year. And the one piece of advice that is just incredible, that everyone should just understand, is that you just start early, or as early as you can, and then be consistent with your investments. So, you have to choose what vehicles to use, which mutual funds, but, there's and some fishermen really will, there's only so much money to go around. So are you saving for a boat, or are you saving for your retirement? And so you're going to have these discussions at home. Like if there's enough to fully fund your IRA every year and save for a new boat and buy a house, that's awesome. You probably are working about 9 months, 10 months of the year, and you're working really hard to have that much. But a lot of times you find yourself, oh my gosh, things are expensive. We have some inflation going on, and you have to start choosing. So I would usually get Matt, like, you should put at least some, every month, and you don't have to max it out. And let's just keep putting a little bit in there. Cause I like putting money in. I like having a diversified portfolio. I think that's another thing that's very relaxing. Have a little rental house over here, have your little, mutual fund pile growing over time. And it will grow over time, especially if you start young and just keep doing it consistently. So that was the best advice I could give, is just, yes, put something in a retirement fund, whether you're maxing out your IRA or just investing in another investment account. So hopefully that will grow over time so you can have money in the future for whatever you want to do, real estate or, whatever. But just consistently do it every month. Dollar cost average into the market. That's the phrase, dollar cost averaging.
I love that. Okay. That sounds nice. And it sounds cozy to have all your investments around.
Yeah.
What investment benchmarks do you use, if any?
I don't know if I have a benchmark, but you get to a point where you start off, it feels so small, and then it grows like in your, if you can start in your 20s or whatever, you're just so wonderful. And then you're in your 30s, you keep going, and then you're in your 40s. And then when you're in your 40s, in 50s, you start to see the benefit of what you've done. And then, but it's like it's like a snowball, it's very small. And then eventually down the road, it gets to be big. So I don't know, there's a benchmark. It's just like the size of your snowball, but you start to, think about, you just start to, I don't know how the benchmark is. It's a stress barometer for me. I feel relaxed. I'm like, okay, it's okay. Everything's gonna be fine.
Sounds legit, like probably the best benchmark ever. How relaxed do I feel about talking about?
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add that we didn't touch on about finances and?
What would I do differently looking back? And that would be just, I would fully fund my IRAs more. I would have been on a budget a lot earlier, or a tighter budget a lot earlier. The budgeting is a process. You have to start with, so just start with anything. Just get it down on paper, however you do it, but write down how much you think is coming in every month and how much is going out. And just basically you throw numbers there. And then month after month after month, you start to refine those numbers, because you start to understand. And it's like, oh yeah, if I pay my home insurance once a year instead of every month, I don't know, I'll get a discount. You start figuring out where you're going to save a little bit of money here and there. And then, but I was going to say, just keep working on your budget. It's not a one-time thing. It's an evolving conversation, an evolving piece. And now I don't really use a budget, because it becomes part of your whole entire, you just know every time you're using your card, like, this is like the third time I've been to the grocery store this month. It's probably like, or fourth, or I don't go to the grocery store that much, but, like, just, you start to figure it out. But I was just going to say, like, I would just do it earlier. When you're older and you look back, most of the time you're like, oh, I should have done this, I should not. So if you're young and you're listening to this podcast, just be glad that someone else besides your mother or your father or someone's telling you to do something. And it's like, just as good advice, just make a budget, stick to it.
Chris and I literally had that conversation this morning. We're like, we're not going to shoulda, coulda, woulda, but man, saving money earlier.
Yeah. And very few people do that. So like, I was going to say, also from working in the bank, like, I had a lot of conversations like that with people. They were like, oh, I should have done this. Or most everybody has something they've invested in their lifetime that was a total either scam, or someone said, you should do this and you're going to make so much money. And you're like, okay. And then you hand over a whole bunch of money that you earned over a long period of time, and then it's gone. Something happens like that to most everyone. They invest in a business that didn't do well. So I was just going to say, like, that's the norm. That's normal. And most people who are successful in life have experiences like that. And the really successful people have had like lots of money and then no money, and then lots of money, then no money. And then they've come up with a third thing that's the charm, but they never give up. So, it's just life. Life happens. And sometimes there's money, sometimes there's not. Sometimes things happen that are expensive, and there's, health. We didn't even talk about healthcare, but, there's health related issues. There's things that come up that are expensive, and sometimes life is hard. So,
What kind of healthcare advice do you recommend?
Healthcare is just make sure you have some. And healthcare is such an unhappy, oh God, because if you're healthy, you're paying a lot of money for something you don't even use. And then you feel like you need to do that, and you do. Oh, and get life insurance. Get life insurance early, early and when you're young, and especially term. Just get a term life insurance for your family, and then that will help ease possible pain. But I mean, the likelihood of needing life insurance is so slim. That's how these companies exist in the first place. But that's important. Get life insurance, and also have health insurance. And then I don't know, it's just have health insurance, figure out how to pay as little as possible, get a high deductible. Okay, I'll talk about this real quick. Get a high deductible health insurance plan if you don't go to the doctor very often. If you do go to the doctor very often and you're always there, then you want probably a different plan, But if you get a high deductible insurance plan, you have a lower premium that you pay every month. And then you can get an HSA, a health savings account. And that's in addition to having an IRA. HSA, I'll tell everyone like the hot tips that nobody does with their HSA. So you have an HSA, you can put like 8,000 or 7,500 into a family HSA plan. And you can put it, and most of the time you put it in a bank and it just sits there, or you go and use it for your healthcare related items. But if you can save in an HSA, pay for your healthcare incidental expenses personally, not using your HSA money, you can invest your HSA money like you do a retirement plan. And then someday, if you keep all those receipts, so you keep all your receipts for anything that was in a health-related expense, you let that pile that you're adding to every year grow. And then someday you can, when you need money, you can reimburse yourself for those things that you paid for out of your personal pocket. And that money you're reimbursing yourself for is not taxable. So as long as you're reimbursing for a medical approved, so you have to keep receipts. You actually literally have to have a shoebox or someplace to keep those, or some record. Because if you get audited or something happen, you can't just give yourself money out of your HSA. You have to pay income tax on that money. But if you use it for health related items, then you don't have to pay income tax. It's the only triple tax deduction in the entire US tax code. It goes in, you don't pay tax on it. It grows tax free. And then if you spend, health related, like let's say you're going to get your kids braces or something, pay for the braces. I don't know how much it costs these days, like 2,500, maybe it's 5,000. I really don't know, but that's a chunk. Braces. I always think of braces. You could pay for that personally. And then, have that growing in your HSA account over years. And someday you want to go on vacation. You can reimburse yourself for those braces that you put on your kid when they were 14. And then, you don't have, it doesn't become part of your income stream. So I love HSA money. That's good. That's a hot tip. But a lot of times, again, people have their HSAs, and that's a good thing to use. And they don't have money to spend out of their personal account and let that money. It's sort of like but if you have a good year fishing, maybe that's a good year to do that. And that's another good thing to take advantage of is HSA accounts. Put your money away in your IRAs and, live frugally. But we always eat well, that's another thing about commercial fishing families, and we get to eat like kings.
True. It's true. That is the cherry on top, the healthcare HSA. Thank you for that note for sure. Mm-hmm. And thank you so much for your time. This has been extremely valuable, no pun intended, but I've been looking forward to this, and I'm so glad we finally have it recorded so other people can enjoy, learn, and thrive, because that is what we're here to do.
Good luck. Good luck to all the families. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Work out your problems, stay together.
Oh, I love that. And buy Mike's fresh fish. We'll put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, Matt's fresh fish. Yeah.
Sorry, Mike. I don't even know where I come from. All right. Thank you so much, Maureen. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Okay. I think we got it. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. I'm so sorry I said Mike. I don't even know where that came
from. Oh, no, that's okay.
But that was just so easy. You're really, really great. I'm like, are we on a radio show? This is what it felt like. You were just so good. And I love that the name's POCF Money too, by the way. I noticed that.
Oh yeah.
This is awesome. So I'll keep you posted on when I'll publish it. It'll be probably in July, maybe mid to end of July. And then I'll post it as I'm sure I'm going to roll this out in National Fisherman too. So that's probably more of like an interview dialogue situation. And then,
yeah. Okay.
Yay. And then
feel free to call back if you need clarification.
Oh, thank you. Everything's
Yeah.
great. I might text and see if you have any family photos. That might be the only thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll look for one. All right.
Thank you for
Okay, well, thanks for that. It was fun.
Thank you. And hello to the fam for us.
Yeah, you too.
See you.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast. To support our community, I'd love for you to join us by subscribing to this podcast, hitting the like button, and or posting a review. And if you're a POCF looking for more resources on how to navigate this unique lifestyle, things from long distance dating to motherhood advice, visit meganwaldrop.com. That's MEGANWALDREP.com. We can't wait to connect with you. If you want to connect with more POCFs just like you, join the private forum at meganwaldrop.com/private-forum. Or even better, if you want to hang out in real life, there's an all-inclusive POCF retreat happening this fall 2023. Visit meganwaldrop.com/retreat-2023. And you can find both links in the show notes. We would love to meet you. Thanks for listening today. Being here means you're a part of the POCF family, and we wouldn't be a community without you. I'm Megan, and this is the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast. As always, much love, POCF pride, and remember, you are not alone.